Welcome to the Real Aesthetic Podcast, a real deal on like aesthetics and stuff.
Oh, we've been rolling this whole time.
He was my gopher.
I'm your host, Alexis Arsenis. We're gonna have a good time here. Hey guys, welcome back to the Real Aesthetic Podcast. My name is Alexis Arsenis. This is a show where we dive deep into the world of aesthetics, health, and wellness. And today is really more about picking your purpose and learning more like about you and everything else. And I'm so excited to have this awesome guest here today, Monica. And I'm so excited you're here because you're a referral from a great friend of mine.
Yes, Mike the Lip King. He's a great guy.
Shout out to Mike. Is it Lip King Aesthetics on Instagram? Look him up, guys. He's in New Bedford now, right?
Is,
Not Fall
yes.
River, New Bedford. He was in like I think it was Fall River before, right? When he was in like the brick building.
I think that was still New Bedford.
Was it?
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like it's all the same thing down there. You got like, I'm such a North Shore girl. I'm like, oh, it's South Shore.
South Shore somewhere, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about you. I'm so excited.
Oh, thanks. Thank you for having me. I have been born and raised in the South Shore of Massachusetts. I am a mom of two wonderful kids. I have a boy who's 12 and a daughter who's 9 years old.
Such fun ages.
Oh, they are. Yeah, she's 9 going on 29. I think she knows everything there is to Ulta and Sephora. So those kids are a handful. She's in karate, and my son is
Ooh.
a soccer player. He likes to play soccer. So that's
I love that.
yeah. So I'm a busy mom, especially. And yeah, I wanted to come on the show and talk to you about my new branding that I just recently came out with,
Yeah.
Pick Your Purpose. I find that so many men and women don't know what their purpose in life is. And if you Google
Mhm.
purpose, you'll find your purpose, plan your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But pick your purpose wasn't on there.
Yeah.
And the reason why I chose that was because I kind of make it a metaphor towards a department store. If you go to a Nordstrom's or a
Yeah.
TJ Maxx, you go in that department store and they're categorized by, different genders and different things for your home. And, you have to go through it. And once you get to that specific section that you need to go to, now you're going to go down to sizing and you're going to go down to style. And if you're with someone, they have an opinion if that's going to look good on you or not. So to pick down to what it was you went there for and get,
Mm-hmm.
it takes a lot to get there. And then finally,
Absolutely.
you choose it, you buy it, you go home with it. In life, I find that for me, I had so many choices to pick from and things to do with my purpose. And because there were so many, how do I know which one to choose? Is it because someone else told me? Is it because I wanted to? So I decided that branding would be exactly what my healing journey has been over the past, I want to say year and a half. And I've enjoyed speaking about it to so many people. And they have come to me, and my DMs have just been floored with so many people who tell me their life story
Mm-hmm.
because they feel this healing spirit of mine that helps them want to kind of have some relief and tell me a little bit about themselves. And maybe is there something that I did that could help them? And it's just so refreshing to see that I can do
Yeah.
that for people. And that's kind of why I wanted to come on, was talk a little bit about me and what I'm about and what this branding is and how I can help others.
And how did you get to there? Like, what were you doing before? I know you were in like insurance for a little while. So how did you go from, like the 9 to 5 insurance for contractors, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, maybe this isn't what I meant to do.
So
What was that like? How did that like light go off for you?
I'm still doing insurance, so it's
No.
never
Oh,
gone
okay.
away. So I still do insurance. It's definitely something that you don't think a girl of my aesthetics would do.
Yeah.
Someone looks at me and they say, well, why aren't you a hairdresser? Or why didn't you do cosmetology in school?
Yeah.
And one of the lines my dad said to me growing up was, use your, brains and not your beauty. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, all right, I get it. Meanwhile, all my other siblings ended up in that field of cosmetology.
Really? That's
And I
so
got
funny.
stuck as the only one kind of following his footsteps and doing insurance. But it definitely helped me at a very young age to learn a great trend-setting thing that's needed in this world. Who doesn't need insurance? Anything can
Yeah.
happen to any one of us. So I brought it with me through this whole time, and I've grown through it. My life has grown with it, but it's not truly what I feel that my purpose is here to be on this earth. It's not to be selling
Mhm.
insurance
Yeah.
or writing it. So I decided that I wanted to do something a little bit more different and start to read more books and go into schooling to understand more about the psychology of mankind. And
Okay.
because of my experience from such a young age and going through so much, being 38 years old, I don't think a lot of people or women could say that 38, they've gone through what I've gone through.
Yeah.
And that's a tough pill to swallow, especially for me coming from a large family.
Mhm.
I am one of six. My brother's the oldest,
Wow.
and I am the oldest girl.
So what nationality are you?
So I'm Azorean,
Okay.
so Portuguese.
Yeah.
So
I was
from
just
the
there.
Azores. Yeah, it's a
I
beautiful
love it.
place. And a lot of people think I'm Middle Eastern or something from the,
Yeah, no, I was
Middle
like,
East.
I thought more like Latina, something like that. I was like, I don't really know, but like she's gorgeous. So
Oh, thank you. And you too. You're
thanks.
beautiful.
Thanks.
And I just, I feel that a lot of times with having such a large family, especially cultural and being in a faith, you kind of get lost in the translation because there's so many.
Absolutely.
And I was the oldest. And being the oldest girl,
Mhm.
the pressure to be the best,
It's
look
huge.
the best. That's what it was. I had to be the icebreaker from my siblings, if you will. All my sisters had to look up to me. And so that pressure made me do things and look at things in such a way that I had to be the best. And just if that wasn't
Yeah.
good enough, keep going some more. So having that starting off at a young age and my mom, continually to have kids, I was a mom growing up. So I feel like
Absolutely.
she had my kids for me. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to have any kids. I think when I get older, I think she's had all mine. But as time went on, obviously I had kids, but I saw that I kind of didn't have a childhood. I had to grow up really
Quickly.
quick. Yes. And when I turned 14, leaving middle school to go into high school, that's when everything took a turn. At 14, obviously, girls are developing a lot quicker now
Absolutely.
hormonally. So I looked a lot older and I quickly went into high school and liked a senior.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was 18. That's like jailbait right there. And, my dad just is like, yeah, this isn't going to be working out. I don't think you'll be going to public school. And that was tough for me. And
So he pulled you out of school?
he did. He spoke to the superintendent and said, I just think I'm going to be having my daughter home. I think it's just the best for all of us, and she'll homeschool. And I remember the superintendent telling my dad, "You're taking your daughter's social life away from her." And he said, "No, no, I'm actually saving my daughter's life." Those were his words. So
How
I
do you
was
feel about
home.
that? Do you feel like it did mess up your social life, or do you feel like it was good for you? Because I wanna homeschool my kids,
I
but
think
for different reasons.
think going through it, I was bitter. I was
Okay.
upset at the time. I felt this is not fair. Like, why does this have to be me?
Yeah.
And now I look at it years later and I go, that probably was the best thing he did because he kind of did in some ways. Because if I did go to school and knowing the kind of girl I was, I probably would have gotten myself in a lot of trouble just because
Yeah.
I knew the stuff I got into as life went on.
Yeah.
So I am grateful that I did it. And it was quick because the way homeschooling worked back in the day, we're talking like back in the days like 2000, 2002, was when you finished one subject of a book, you'd go right on to the next one. It came in the mail.
Yeah.
I did all 4 years of high school in a year and a half.
Oh, I'm sure.
So
Because it's like 2 hours a day when they first start, and then because
yeah.
my kids are little, they're 3 and 2.
Okay.
So, I think it's a little bit different for them because 'cause they're never going to go to public school, where, like, your dad pulled you out high school. Like, you have friends, you're established. Like, I feel like that's a little bit more intense than kind of already starting them off, and they don't know what they're missing, so to say.
Exactly. Very true. And so you see a little taste of it. But at the same time, being home, you're with your parents or
Yeah.
you're out with them. You're not, especially finishing high school. What was I going to do at 15 and a half? Be home? No. I decided I wanted to get a job, but I wasn't going to go work at, Dunkin' Donuts, I thought, or Burger King. I
Yeah, it just,
wanted
like,
to
wasn't
have
for
a
you.
job. Yeah, I wanted a job. So I wanted a job that was answering a phone, being a receptionist. And I did. I did some temporary jobs here and there, answering phones for different establishments. And I enjoyed it doing some customer service, but that got me in trouble. Why? Because I looked a lot older than what I
Yeah.
was. And so I got taken out of high school where there's younger kids to deal with. And I'm getting put now in the workplace environment with
Where there's
older.
creeps. Yeah.
And there's men. And now I'm looking at these men and I'm like, well, he's real nice. I'm like, well, this didn't save me. Because
You're
now
like,
I'm
"I
like,
could still get in just as much trouble here right
Yeah,
now."
exactly, exactly. So, yeah, at 17, I moved out of my parents' home at a
Wow.
very young age. And the gentleman that I started dating was much older than me.
Yeah.
I mean, just so 7 years or so, not
Yeah,
too
it's
bad, but 7
whatever.
years. But it was a tough time because my parents were pretty much like, "You go down that way, that we're not pretty much gonna have anything to do with you."
Yeah,
And, for a little while there, I didn't have family, I didn't have anybody,
that's so
and
hard.
that was tough, and I saw what I got into, and what I got into was getting involved with a gentleman that I thought, you know, made an earning, decent guy next door having a job, and, behind closed doors, he was doing things illegally, and I
Mhm.
didn't really know much about it until I would smell certain things or see certain things, and
Yeah.
I have probably seen more money in a room
Oh.
than a
Ugh.
bank could hold. Like, I've seen it all, and it was some of the scariest times of my life, and I was so grateful when I got back home, because I just couldn't live that lifestyle anymore, and my dad was like, "The doors are still open," and I
Yeah,
came
that's amazing
home.
that your family let you come home because a lot of families would be
Yeah.
like, "Nope, sorry, like, you did it. Sorry, see you later."
Yes, exactly, and he let me back in, and, it took a little bit as well for me, and he said, "I'm gonna make a path for you. Here's what we're gonna do. Since you are young, I'm gonna put you at a company that's an insurance company that I work for, and you're gonna grow, and this will be the starting for the rest of your life. This will be the base. This will be your
Yeah,
foundation." I'm like, "Okay, all right, whatever you say." So he's like, "You're gonna go on a train, you're gonna take it into the city of Boston,
there you go.
45-minute ride, and you're gonna walk to the building." It was like a 32 floor, 31 floor building, and, yeah, you're going to start to learn insurance. I'm like, "Okay." So I got there, I went in the mail room and started working out and doing different types of, policies, learning about different types of coverages, and just really get into the meat and potatoes of what insurance is.
Yeah,
Within 6 months, the company had different positions that were opening, and I was elevating myself to the point that at the age of 18 years old, I had kids leaving high school, going into college,
yeah,
and having to pay student loans that my company that I worked for was paying my loans to take school after work. And
yeah,
I had nothing that I had to worry about when it came to student loans. I was still getting my degrees and I was getting a well paid job that my salary was incredible for a girl at 18 years old.
absolutely.
So, in some regards, yes, I had to grow up quicker. I was the youngest working at the company at 18 years old. But from then on, I got into the wholesale side, the carrier side, and the brokerage side of insurance. So there's so many different facets of insurance, and to learn about it and be in it over 20 years of experience. Like I said, I'm actually not the girl that sells your car and your
Yeah,
home and any other kind of insurance that you see out there, like a AAA would. I do your commercial and property insurance. You're dealing with general liability, your property, your workman's comp. You're dealing
mhm.
with all sorts of different general list of people that I try to insure. So it's definitely a vast subject to talk about, and it's kind of can get boring and dry.
No, I think insurance is important because a lot of people don't have it and they should. And then we just had this conversation downstairs, like Florida, where you live now, doesn't require you to have insurance,
Yes.
which is wild to me because I have
Yes.
so much insurance, like it's ridiculous.
Oh yeah. Well, especially in the medical field or the cosmetics, they do not ask anybody if they have it or not. And you only find that out is
That's
if
so scary to
someone
me.
does a botched job or they die.
Yeah.
That's when you find out you can't sue. So,
Yeah, like, what do you do?
yeah, you
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 just like,
just
"Oh, shit
yeah,
out of luck, they messed up my face."
yeah,
Like,
pretty much.
that is so scary. I would be ask people for their, like, certificates of insurance or COIs all the time.
Yeah, well, even that. I mean, I'm being in Florida now with the contractors insurance. I was just at a Florida Home Builders Association that they have, and there's a 23 different contractors from different cities that come in, and they talk about the different legislation and
Yeah.
laws. You wouldn't believe how many contractors from out of state are coming into the state of Florida to help with the hurricane
Oh,
reliefs.
I know, we were gonna do it.
Well, then they take off with these poor people's money and
Yeah.
then don't do it. And then these people are afraid to go to the police because they're afraid they're going to get killed. So it's so
That's scary. When
terrible.
we were looking in Florida, we, were, like, looking into, like, what licensure you need for Florida for construction because my husband does construction, and it was kinda like the Wild Wild West, like, no one had answers, and
Hmm.
everyone was scared to work with people, and it was, like, weird because we're just, like, nice people that wanted to, like, help out.
Yeah.
And it was just wild. Like, no one knew what was going on. Could you get insured if you were from out of state? It was really like, maybe I'll have him talk to you because I was like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
This is insane. This is too difficult to do. So we decided that we weren't going to do that.
Yeah, and again, insurance, it can get tricky, and there are so many asterisks of what's included and what's not included
Yeah.
when a catastrophe happens, but I used to do the makeup for some of the women that I worked with because they were very plain Jane. They just that wasn't their forte. They weren't there to be
Yeah.
beautified. So they'd be, "Hey, can you do my makeup?" And I'd be in the bathroom after work
Just like putting all their stuff
dolling them
on.
up. So I still got to have the best of both worlds. I got to still live my
I
little
love
aesthetic
that.
life doing that. But yeah, so I kind of had that lifestyle growing up at a very young age. But at that same time, I loved love. And
Mhm.
I got married at 19 years old.
Wow.
19 was, yeah, that was a quick marriage that lasted probably about a year and a half.
Wow.
That wasn't too long.
How were your
Um,
parents with that? Because I feel like if I told my parents that I was getting married, they'd be like, at 19, they would've been like, "What?" Like,
Yeah, within my faith, morally speaking, it was one of those things where you don't date somebody just to date them.
you
You're
date them to marry
dating to
them.
get married.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's where that comes in because that's the right thing to do. You're not just
I
playing with
agree.
someone's their emotions. And so that was the first thing I wanted to do, and we set the date. But before we got married, my dad actually sat me down with him at the time and was like, "I want to let you know, you guys can back out now if you want to. You can back out." We were going through a few things, a little bit of bickering. He could kind of see something was off, but there was so much money invested into it that my dad put into this wedding. He paid for
Yeah.
everything. And I just felt this guilty conscience over me, and
So you just had to do it.
I was like, I gotta follow through, that's how I am, if I start something, I have to finish, regardless of the outcome of this, how I felt, and I look at people and I envy those at one point, I did, those who had their 25th, 40th, 50th, 60th wedding anniversary,
It's beautiful if you
and
get there.
I loved it, I used to be like, "Oh my gosh, I want to do that, I wanna have a marriage like that." But as life took me on into my second marriage, and I had 2 kids.
Were your children were both from your second marriage?
Correct. I
Okay.
had no children from the prior. And so going on to the second marriage, and ecstatically loving that life was more superficial in that marriage,
Yeah,
where
it's fun.
you have, some of the nicest things, great looking mate,
Yeah,
beautiful kids. It's like that American dream that you want to have.
absolutely.
All along the way, though, you're making money at a good age, ahead of the game for many people, but
Mhm.
I had a spouse that, wasn't making the kind of money I was making, so I was kind of always the breadwinner.
Mhm.
Again, going back to what I always was this girl who had to be the best at everything and had to show up for
Yeah.
everybody and give her shirt off her back for everybody, and I'd be
Yeah.
dying at night, like, I don't even know how I would sleep with
But it's
anxiety.
also difficult being the breadwinner in the situation when you're a female because I feel like, and this is talked about a lot, is like you can't get into being like super feminine if you're always the one that's like the dominant one. Like your masculine traits of bringing in more money, doing all of the things, not necessarily depending on him for income, maybe other things, but it doesn't allow you to get into that more like feminine zone, which also might piss him off because he's like, "Why aren't you doing these things?" You're like, "Oh, I don't know. Maybe because I'm like doing everything else and paying for everything, you know?" So I can see like how that riff might have happened for you too.
That was in a nutshell what happened,
Yeah.
and I had to learn through time how to balance my masculinity and femininity
Mhm.
because those 2 things are difficult to have, and to balance that I find is the hardest thing for male and female to do
Absolutely.
because we all have it within both of us, and it's very difficult, and yeah, unfortunately, that didn't last as well, but that was 12 years, 10 years married, 12 years together, 2 beautiful kids, and unfortunately, I also didn't feel that the marriage was working.
Yeah.
And, kinda went on my merry way, and I now looked at myself saying, "Oh gosh, my whole family is looking at me, I'm such a failure. I'm
Mhm.
the girl who makes a decent living, supposedly has a decent looking lifestyle, but she's the black sheep of the family. She just can't get it right. She can't do what everyone else has been doing all these years, which is stay together through, good and bad and just make it through. Fight through it." And I thought, "No, I did fight through all of those.
Yes.
I did. I did. It takes two to tango. We all hear that story.
Absolutely.
And you gotta pull your weight. And the things that did happen to me within those marriages were completely uncalled for. I have been cheated on. I have
Mhm.
gone through so much in those marriages to the point that when I looked in the mirror and I was stripped down,
Yeah.
I felt completely hideous,
Yeah.
especially a woman who breastfed. My daughter was 2 when I stopped. You have 1
That's amazing,
breast.
by the way.
Thanks.
That's
I
amazing.
couldn't do it with my son. He was about 5 months, but Ava all the way down, and I would look at myself, my breast, one's bigger, one's smaller,
Well,
looking at
it defeats you because
yeah.
motherhood, you literally lose, and I don't mean this in a bad way, like, you lose everything. Like, you lose your hair, you lose your self-esteem, your body's changing. Your friend you see who your friends are after you have children and who's really there for you, who's gonna support you. So you have to find this, like, new version of yourself once you become a mom, and I think a lot of people struggle with that because they want their old life back, but that old life is gone, like, you're this new person now, you're like, someone depends on you, and I think it's really difficult for women today to, like, understand having it's a responsibility. It's great, but it is different life than going out on Friday night and, being able to go get drinks or brunch with your friends. Like, you don't have that luxury
No.
after you have children. You don't have the luxury of having time to pee by yourself half the time, let alone like getting ready to go out. So it is really difficult to like get to know who you are again.
Yes, it was, and I think the aesthetics was so imprinted, and what it did was it internally brought up childhood trauma, and I thought, "This whole time, I'm blaming all these men that I've been with, that it's their fault." But in the end, I had to look in the mirror and say, "Is it really my fault? Is it
Yeah.
what was wrong with me? What did I do in this marriage that I could have been better at?" And I kept doing that to myself, and I was putting this blame game for a long time, but it was really deteriorating me internally and externally. And even though I'd go to work every day, I did that
Yeah.
job at 9 to 5, I was getting paid, it just inside I was just so unhappy.
Mhm.
I didn't know, how could I make myself happier? Especially being raised in a family that, aesthetics, everyone always was dressed right. Everyone looked good,
Mhm.
smelled good, I had this name to bear for myself. And then realizing, okay, do I need help? Do I need to see a shrink? Do I need to get some therapy here? And
Yeah.
I did see various forms and did go look to find out what was going on with me. And I know that I was not broken because that is a
Oh,
word I don't like being used. No one's broken. No one needs to be fixed, but people can evolve.
absolutely.
People can evolve. And I look now and I say to myself, this is what happened. People are looking for soulmates, they're looking
Mhm.
for their other half. No, people should be looking for their holes because when you're
Mhm.
whole and you find the other hole, you two together now working, my
Mhm.
gosh, that is a recipe and that's not for disaster. That's a recipe for victory.
Yeah.
That is what you need. You need someone to know completely who they are and vice versa. And by doing that, that is how that marriage is going to work. But always finding these emptied men, me being
Mhm.
emptied, half and half, it was never going to work.
No.
It didn't matter how spiritual you were. It didn't matter, how financially stable you were. It just never was going to work. And so now I had to, pull that bull by the horn and say, what am I going to do? I got a life coach,
Mhm.
and I started reading more, doing a lot of audio listening and just finding out about me and finally realizing this young girl at 14, what did she go through in the beginning? What made her mind turn to be a certain way? And now I look at why couples, especially now more prevalently, are getting divorced.
I see it every single day downstairs in Bloom.
Yeah.
I think I have last week, I had maybe 8 clients tell me that they were getting divorced. And these aren't like new divorces. And not to say that that's any different, but like these are people that have been married for like 20, 30 years and they're like I'm done. And I'm like, "Wow. Like you
Yeah.
made it that far and you're just like, no." And I have one client in particular who I absolutely love, and she just recently got divorced, but they've been separated for some time. They were married for 30 plus years, and she's having the time of her life. Telling me all these dating stories, all these different people she's meeting. And I'm like, good for you. But like, that must have been so difficult to be with someone for so long. And then just not. Like, how do like, that person knows you you would think that person knows you so well, but I guess people do change, like, over time.
To me, it comes down to pride. It comes down to
Yeah.
pride, and you got the baby boomers, you have got the Generation
Mhm.
X, you've got the millennials, you got all these generations. And what happens is they didn't have the self-help books. They didn't have the Dr. Phils and the talk shows that we see today and these podcasters and
Yeah.
all these healing journeys to go on. They relied on what their parents told them, which
Which
either
was suck it
was,
up, get over it, go to work, and
yeah,
then
and if they hit you, they cheat on you, it's okay. You stay in that
yeah,
marriage, that toxic relationship. How dare you, if you leave that relationship, you will be looked upon as that black sheep. So everyone was scared. They were prideful.
yeah,
They won't. All this time goes by, and that's why you're seeing now
yeah.
20, 30 years of marriage. They're like, "Oh, wait a minute. I
I
shouldn't be living my life like this
exactly.
anymore. I shouldn't be hiding like this. No, this is what's happening."
But I also think it's hard to compare now people getting married and before because I think now there's more access, right? Everyone's always looking for the next best thing. So instead of being happy with the person that you have and built this relationship with, maybe there's that one shortfall that you have. And instead of working on that with you, they say, "Oh my god, I'm just going to swipe. I'm just gonna find someone that can maybe you don't cook. I want someone that can cook." You know what I mean? Like something random. But
Right.
instead of working on it and having communication, I find a lot of my clients now, they just literally have no idea how to talk to each other and communicate that maybe you need this. And I like we have this rule in my house where it's sometimes I look at Rob and I'm like, listen, like I'm at like a 20% right now. Like I'm like, you only got 20%. So like pick your battles right now. And he's like, cool. I'm at like a 90. Like, we're good. Like, what do you need? And like we kind of like pick up where the other one falls. But it took a long time in conversations and sometimes we had to be apart for a little while to get there. But people don't know how to have these conversations. And I think that's a huge part of today is just the access. Social media is a big problem.
Mm,
And I think people fall in love with the aesthetic. They love what you look like now. That's not always what you're going to look like after you have kids or
exactly.
as time goes on, you know? So I think that it is different from when like our parents were together to us now and then to our kids. I'm
Right.
afraid for my daughters. Like,
It's also humility because I think what you mentioned, which was key, was people want to scroll because, oh, she doesn't cook or he doesn't clean. I got to find the next person. What people need to start doing is look in the mirror and
mhm.
say, what do I need to do? Me, not that person. We all are imperfect. We all have flaws.
Yeah,
What do I need to work on? What is it that, and I had to do that a lot. And that was hard for me because it was like you're so quick to point the finger. Look back at yourself. It's
yeah,
really you. You've got to, and that's what I started to see that it's me. I need to work on me. And this is now I've got to pick my purpose
I
and
love
find
it.
out why am I here and how can I help younger women or even
Mhm.
I've actually helped more demographically men than I have women. You should see. I had recently, before the holidays, a gentleman reached out to me and asked me if I could help him write a letter to his wife who left him with his sons. And I felt horrible to hear the story, but it was just an honor to have somebody come to me and feel more
Yeah,
comfortable to ask me, "Hey, can you help me write a letter? I like how you write and how you speak in the morning." And the reason why, to go back up here,
yeah,
he saw that was because I every morning started doing a routine, which was with the social media platforms in these stories you see on Instagram.
yeah,
I wanted to wake up in the morning and do some type of affirmation or some type of daily text to people on a certain subject or a quote that I saw that would just give them those 60 seconds of hope for the day. We
yeah,
hear so much negativity on the news every single day. Who doesn't want to hear good news? So I started doing that, and slowly I found myself listening to myself and playing it back and going, "Wow,
yeah,
okay, that's actually great, and I am having a great day today." And so many people commented, and I just kept going, and that's what's
yeah.
helped me look at the good and the positive of things.
Yeah, I feel like in today's world, there's just so much negative everywhere. Turn your phone on, something's happening. There's a wildfire here. There's this
Mm.
happening. Someone shot up a school. Who knows? Like it's
Mm.
all this stuff going on. And it is nice to have that one place to go and like see your videos and stories and say, all right, like today's not gonna be that bad. Like
Right.
we're gonna be okay today. Let's start off on that foot. So that's so amazing. So are you coaching? Is that like what you're we're focusing on
And
now.
that's what I'm focusing on
I
because
love that.
through my experiences and how much I've gone through and just trying to summarize it to you is there's so much
Yeah.
more and I hope to write a book.
I love that. That's my
Yeah.
goal too.
The New York Times said that 80% of us, of mankind, have novels inside of us.
Absolutely.
And how true is that? We all have a story to tell. And
Absolutely.
the other part is some don't want to share their story. They're either embarrassed or private. And I do respect those
Mhm.
people who value themselves, that they don't want to be an open book and,
Yeah.
wear their heart on their sleeve. But I also look at it from the standpoint of if you don't share your story or you don't share how can you not help someone else that might be going through that?
Exactly. And that was the biggest reason for me to open here too. Was that, maybe my situation or your situation, maybe someone listens to me that will benefit from hearing you. Maybe it has nothing to do with aesthetics at all. But listening to you here, they're like, wait, maybe I need that. Getting these different professionals in here with me was huge because you never know. Like your story might influence someone else. Maybe someone else I have on here helps somebody else. So it's just kind of a collective that I wanted to put together. So I'm so happy that you
Well,
reached out. It was so
yeah.
random too cuz I was like, "Who's this girl? She's really pretty." I'm like, "She's coming
Oh.
to my show. This is so awesome."
Well, aesthetics is obviously something I always was passionate about because
Yeah.
I loved beautiful women. And I
Yeah.
and I would I would be the first to tell a gentleman, "Oh my gosh, she is so beautiful." Like, "Oh, I wonder where she got," and I would be the first to go compliment her. And I've
Yeah.
never been a jealous girl. I've
No.
always been one to go right up to somebody and just, "Where did you get that? I'd like to get that," and just
Yeah.
compliment them. And there's so many that don't do that out there. And I really want people to encourage those ones to do that because that one comment goes a long
Long
way.
way.
That person could have had a crappy day. And if they just hear that, man,
Mhm.
I don't care if, her hair looked nice that day. It just makes you feel so good
It
about
does.
yourself. And so with aesthetics, that was an issue I had because every time a marriage failed, I blamed it on I wasn't pretty enough. I need
Mhm.
to fix this. Instead of me looking internally at
Yeah.
myself, what was inside, I was like, well, this hair, I need to do something with this hair. Because she obviously was prettier than me. I mean, he went for her. So obviously, it
Yeah.
really put me in such a terrible state of mind. And now, as time has gone on and I've healed from inward out instead of outward
Mhm.
in, I can see that aesthetics isn't just our outside beauty, it's also our internal.
I think that people overdo it with aesthetics, especially in my side.
You see
And
it.
yeah, it's a little much. And I think that they're chasing a look that's unattainable. And I think that they need to just be happy and look good for themselves. Like you don't have to look like Kim Kardashian or like any of these people. Like you can just be you and look like you and that's what people are going to like. They like you for you. Especially like having the med spa downstairs. I see people all the time and they're like this is the look I want. And I'm like, first of all, she's a different race.
Yes.
Okay. So, like, you're Irish. She's like dark. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm like, her bone structure, completely different. Like, there's only so much that you can do. So, I think that people need to like tone it back. And I think a lot of the industry is turning into a more like not natural, so to say, look. A lot of these like biostimulating fillers versus like these thick, crazy cheeks everyone was doing for a while. And like natural big lips and not looking like you have two sausages in your face. Um, and I think Mike does a great job where he does beautiful big lips, but like they don't look ridiculous. I mean, a few, but that's what they want. So like go for it.
Yes.
Um,
Being authentic is
yes,
where
that's the word.
people are missing the mark. Going back to Mike, this is one of the reasons why I appreciated him when I first met him 6 years ago. I came from California
Mhm.
and I was visiting from the West Coast and visiting my now husband, Joseph. And
Oh, so we're married again.
I'm married. This is my third marriage. I'm going to become
Third time's the
Elizabeth Taylor.
charm.
That's what
I
they
love
say.
it.
Yes.
Was that hard for you? Like, you're like, "Shit, I'm gonna get married again." Like, did you doubt it a little bit? Sorry to cut you
Um,
off, but I was
no,
like,
you
I
know,
didn't know you were married again. So I was like, "This is great." Like,
Yeah, no, I loved love, like I said, and I always believed, once you get knocked down, you get back up. You don't
yeah.
say, "Oh, I'll never do that again." Up, never say never. And I actually met my husband. It was kind of accidentally, believe it or not. And we had a long distance relationship during COVID, and it was 6 months engaged and then 6 months married. It was a very quick wedding, and I
Wow.
think a lot of people kind of raised their eyebrows on that one, and kind of had to travel a lot of back and forth, but I am so grateful for him being behind me throughout this journey. And he knows more details about me than probably anybody on this earth knows because he
Yeah.
just sat there to listen to all of it. And I always appreciated that about him. But yeah, our story is a whole different chapter for another podcast.
No, I love that though.
But going back to being authentic, when I met Mike 6 years ago, I went in, I had told my husband, hey, so I know you're going to think this is weird, but when I sleep at night, I sleep on the pillow and one side of my face, I feel it's like not symmetrical. I feel when I look in the mirror, I have one side, it's bigger than the other. And he's looking at me, he's like, I really don't see it. And I'm like, well, I'm going to ask a professional. So
Yeah.
I went to Mike and I got in there and I knocked on his door and he got me in and I just, his
I love
infectious
his
relationship is just with
I
the
love him.
yeah, he's just but he's also a breath of fresh air because he's such a good man. That
Such a good
man
person.
just so respectful. I mean, he loves talking about his wife and
His
kids.
kid, yep.
Love that. It
I
means
love
so
his wife.
much.
She's
Yes,
amazing.
she
She's had
is.
facials downstairs.
She
She's
has.
phenomenal.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful family. And I just saw how honest he was. He looked, he goes, I really wouldn't touch your cheekbones today.
Yeah.
He's like, I just feel like you might just do something, and he's like, if you want, I can, plump your lips a little bit. So what I went in there for is not what I walked out there with because he could have been, let me take this girl's money.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just shoot you up here and make he was so dead honest
Mhm.
with me. And I remember Joseph sitting there and kind of going like, okay, he's like, are you going to go down this road now? You're going to look like Michael Jackson. Like you're going to have your face.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I wouldn't go down that way. He was getting worried like, oh
Yeah.
gosh, please no. And it didn't because every time I went and saw Mike, whatever he would tweak or do, I felt that it was very natural. It wasn't something that
Yeah.
was like, whoa, what did she get done?
And he puts you in your place too because he comes
Yes.
here and injects my clients and then I'm like, "Hey, do you want to give me a little?" He's like, "No, I haven't had my lips done in almost 2.5 years, maybe 3. Yeah, almost 3 years." And I'm like, "Well, maybe like a little plump up." He's like, "Alexis, you have naturally big lips. I did them once. Like, you're good. Like, you don't need it. Like, I'm not making
Yes.
you look like a blowfish."
Yes.
And like, I feel
Yes.
like you always being in this, it's always like you just want to get something done. I mean, he shoves a ton of Botox in my face, which is totally fine. But he never does anything that's distasteful.
Right.
Like
Right.
even for the clients that he does. And when I met Mike, I was selling him Jeuveau, which is a competitor to Botox.
Mm.
And I worked with all different injectors. And you can kind of see how someone does based upon how they order. So if they're like hyper diluting, like their patients are coming in more, like they're not doing it right. You can tell by like how they order. And Mike was always spot on. Anytime I was in there, he was the nicest. I had met him before I got a BBL. And I was like, I'm gonna get this done. Da, da, da. He's like, let me see. Like, let's do this. Like, maybe you should go here, but don't do this here. And he was so nice about it. And I remember when I
Yes.
like saw him after, he was like, Alexis, it looks so good. Like, it's not crazy. You're just like put together nice. I mean, I got pregnant 6 months later, so it kind of sucked. I'm like, it's all gone now. But he's so down to earth. And that's why I make him drive an hour here. Granted, he has a good time. He stays at the Encore Casino.
Of course he
Yeah,
does.
he makes like $1,500 at the casino.
does.
Yeah, every time he
He
wins.
does. He does.
I'm
He's
like,
amazing.
can I go with you? Because I can't. I win nothing anytime. Like I don't gamble, but like it's a waste of time. So he comes up, he does his little fun night, and then he injects everyone the next day, and they leave so happy every time.
Yes.
So I won't even hire an injector.
It's
Like
so hard to
he comes
trust
in
people.
every 3 months. The clients generally just all rebook with him that day. And it works out. Like they're happy. And that's my goal. Is like I want my clients to be happy and they deserve the best of the best. Why hire anyone else?
Absolutely. I literally take a flight from Florida to see him.
In Florida,
because
there's a med spa every corner.
every corner. And the biggest issue with me is once you have one person that you have that trust, that
Mhm.
loyalty to, because I'm one of those, I get afraid. And then I see some of the other people that walk by and some people get work done and you're like, oh yeah, I don't want to look like that.
Yeah.
So I get nervous and I say, yeah, I think I'm going to stick to the original. And you know what? Right now with Breeze and different airlines, you can take a quick flight for $90 and I'll just get over here and
Yeah.
come back and
It's
forth.
worth it. For 3 hours, a quick flight, like
Yeah,
coffee on the plane, like who cares? Like
Yeah.
just go up here and you know what you're getting.
absolutely.
I feel like a lot of people trust providers blindly. And in a time for me that's very difficult is everybody is opening a med spa.
Right.
But 90% of the nurses, and this isn't shitting on nurses, this is just like a general fact. Most of these providers were never in aesthetics prior to opening. They have these little suites. They're like, I took a Botox course for a day
Yeah.
and now I'm going to inject you. Maybe I have insurance in Florida, maybe I don't. But like, you know, like they don't, there's no like backup to that. So they have no like home care, skincare knowledge, which is 90%. If you don't use good home care,
Mm.
then what the hell is the point of you putting all this money into your face in the first place? So they have none of this knowledge. And then they go in and do all of these things. And when there's a problem, they go, oh, I really don't know how to fix that. Most of my clientele, and I'm not an injector, I send all my fix-its to Mike, if they need to like get something done quick. But a lot of it's with laser. I fix a ton of laser problems. But
Mm.
it blows my mind that people just see like nurse practitioner, doctor, whatever it may be, and they just are like, great, they know exactly what to do. And I'm like,
There are so many, and that's why do your homework, people.
yeah.
Do your homework.
Like
I
look
feel
at before and afters.
yes, even reviews, but with the social media platforms now, everything looks marketed so well that you
Oh
think you're
yeah,
going to the best of the best, and
absolutely.
then you find out for yourself, and all the money you spend, you don't actually get the best of the best.
I'm excited to have Mike on the show because we're gonna have no one's gonna know who these clients are, but we're gonna have pictures of clients on the TV Go, and he's gonna review them and what he thinks like
Oh, that's gonna be a
about
great
them, which
one.
I'm so excited
That'd be a
about because
great I
I
can't
feel like
wait.
he's gonna tear
Yes.
everybody apart. And we're not
Yes.
gonna name names, like we're not trying to do
No,
that,
of
but
course.
we need to learn from it. And I also think he's different because he's been to Europe and trained in Europe.
Oh, yes, that's what I
So
love.
that's very different. Like I don't know many injectors that do that. I mean, there's some in this area that are phenomenal that do that.
Yes.
Um, but I also think his personality is just the best.
Of
Like
course, yeah.
I can't wait
Yeah.
to have him here.
Yeah, he definitely puts his work in. He educates himself. He wants to be knowledgeable and let you know what's going on. But again, seeing firsthand and witnessing him see people in his office where I knew someone that was in there with him and said, she wanted to get more lip filler in. And he was like, listen, we got to dissolve all of that. We cannot put anything further in that because this is going to be a huge issue. That hurt because that person's like, great, I'm going to leave here with lips that are completely thinned out. And yeah, this is
Yeah.
not what I was looking to do right now. And, they were pretty upset, but he was giving his licensed medical actual opinion.
Yeah.
And you can take it or not, but I really appreciated he didn't have to take anyone's money. He just wanted to be honest. And that's honestly the best policy
And I
to
think
say.
that now too is a lot of people, and this happens in med spas too, they're like, I can fix this problem. And 90% of the time when they come here and ask me the same thing, I'm like, listen, I can help. But truthfully, that's surgical. Like I can refer you to an amazing surgeon, but I can't fix that problem. And I much rather just tell them the truth. Like I could take your money.
Mm.
I could give me $6,000. I'll do all these treatments to you. We'll do radio frequency microneedling. We'll do all of these things. But it's still not going to make you really happy and give you the results. So like I'd much rather you get surgery and then do your lymphatic drainage treatments with me and your upkeep facials and your home care with me. But like let's go follow it surgical and go that way.
Yeah,
So I think I am different than most providers because I say no to a lot of people. I probably shouldn't, but
you
I
should.
think it's better to be honest. And I think
Yes.
that um like you said, honesty is the best policy because it
Yeah.
just gets you further in life, I think.
I wish more people lived by that. And I think we're also living in a society today that people are looking at people aesthetically, and you've got the haters too.
Oh
You've got the
God.
ones out there who are so toxic, who look at you and in reality really want to do it. Either they don't
Yeah.
have the funds or they're just scared to do it or they're just afraid
Yeah.
that, you're better than them because they don't want you to be better than them. No, everybody looks in the mirror. I don't care who you are. You could be plain Jane next door and look like Little
Yeah.
House on the Prairie. Don't tell me you look in the mirror because we all own one and say, I look so good and
Yeah.
I don't have to change a thing. No, we're
No
all
one does.
imperfect and we know our imperfections. We see them and who doesn't want to, let me just, I'm getting
Who wants a
older.
little lift here and
Yeah, we're
there?
all
Like,
getting older. I mean, this is what life is. Yeah, that's what's going to happen to us.
yeah.
And why not enjoy life with some of this technology if you can?
You're only here
and do
once.
something. So might as well.
Why not? And I don't know why people are not sharing their stories. Like, if you get something done, like, I don't if someone asks me, I'm like, "Yeah, I got that done." Like,
Yeah,
whatever.
I recently went through something similar, not to go into too many specifics, but
Yeah.
I've always had people hate on me, especially with the media, especially with filters. Oh my goodness. Everyone nowadays, yes, we want to just look like we have clear skin. Even if we do get all this work done, the picture still doesn't look good, so we filter ourselves up. But I look at pictures of me probably 2 years ago. I look completely different. A, because it was filtered, and
Yeah.
B, I wasn't being my authentic self, but at the same time, my body looks different. And to find out that people are, at gatherings and actually taking photos of you and comparing your body to what you were
Who has time
before,
for that?
I don't know, but
Do you know what I mean, though? Like,
yeah, I
how
just
weird do you have to be like, "Hey, let me take a picture of her real quick." Like,
yeah, before and
who
after, and then
yeah.
saying, "Oh, like this has been done." Yeah, that's not the same. And it came to a point where I was like, "Okay, well, I don't feel I need to take my business to people. Like it's not your business what I do with myself." But then they came to a point where I was like, you know something. Most recently, I showed I did a little bit of Morpheus and Evolve on my stomach and certain parts I've done on my thighs. I've gotten things done
Great
to
device.
myself. I've gotten
Works
things
amazing.
done.
And you liked it. You liked your
I
results.
did. They were like skyrocketing, amazing results. That of course you can see the difference. Of course, people are going to go, well, that certainly does not look like her before, and now this is the after. So, what's the purpose? What's wrong of what I did? Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm not happy with the way I look. Well,
My thing is this, if it makes you happy, do it.
there
If
you
it
go.
makes you happy, do it. Like,
Yes.
if you wanna get I wanna get a bleph. I was gonna get one in 2 weeks. I can't now, but, like, just because of scheduling. But, like, if you wanted to do it, like, what's the big deal? My big thing was when I turned 30, I wanted to get my teeth done. I did it. Like, who cares? Like, if it
Yeah.
makes you happy and it is healthy, then do it.
Exactly. And I also think it's about moderation and
Absolutely.
balance. And this is where people get lost with that mindset. Yes, there are people that take it to the extreme and they look ridiculous, like,
Oh, yeah.
body dysmorphia. I had that at one point too. But when it gets to the point where it's so extreme, you need help, like, yes.
And get help.
Yes, yeah, for sure. People need to definitely go get that. But look at it from a moderation standpoint of if I can aesthetically look good outwardly, always remember the inward is
Mhm.
just as important. And you're going to magnetize and empower other women who are going to you're going to glow. You're going to have a different glow
Yeah.
about you. People are going to be like, wow, I'm so drawn to that person, not just because of the way she looks, but look how she speaks.
Yeah.
Look how she articulates herself. I want to be kind of like her, or I want to, be
Mhm.
around her. Those are the people you want to surround yourself with. Those are friends.
Absolutely. I think that people need, and I always say, I hate being the smartest person in the room. I hate that. Like, I really want to surround myself with people that are smarter than me and learn from them. And that's just always how I've been. That's what my mother always taught me. And she always said, when you're in a really crowded room, don't talk, which is really hard because I love talking.
Right.
But she's like, listen to what everyone's saying and learn from them. And then when you have enough info, go
Yes.
fly. And I always lived by that because I was all like you, I grew up really fast and I was always around adults. I always had a big girl job. I, barely graduated high school because I was never there because I was working for a sales company, commuting from Jersey to Boston. I wasn't like the typical kid. You need I just want that's what I wanted though. Like I craved to be around older people and understand what they were doing, and I'm only as good as I am with what I do now because of that. So some people say, "Oh, well, I missed out on my childhood." I'm like, "I don't really give a shit." Like, what did I miss out on?
Yes.
Getting wasted? Like,
Right.
come on, please.
And
Like,
that's exactly
maybe I
why.
did that at like the Ritz bar versus at like in someone's backyard, but like,
Right, right.
and I wasn't paying for it, which was great.
Yes,
But like,
yes.
I don't feel like I missed out on anything, but I feel like a lot of people have this like FOMO, fear of missing out.
Mm.
And it's just so weird to me. But I just I loved being the person that was like younger, absorbing what everyone was saying and learning from them. And then next thing you know, I'm with like a bunch of people that may not be as smart. And then I'm like, oh, did you hear about this? Like, oh, I read this. And, Nick and I send videos to each other all the time,
Constantly.
like literally every day, all day.
Okay.
And it's always like, "Hey, did you read that study? Did you see this?" And I sent him one the other day and he was like, "Is that real?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And we just kind of like go back and forth, which is the cool thing about social media. But to go back to your point, yeah, just like trying to be smarter and just like present yourself differently versus,
Absolutely.
you
And,
know,
to piggyback off of you, that's exactly why when I fast forward and I look at myself today and what I was before, and I say, am I upset that I had to grow up too fast?
no.
No, because you said it. You surrounded yourself with people who are mature adults. And even if you felt you were the smartest person in the room and they didn't know what they were talking about, you can still pick something from everyone that you can learn from them.
Absolutely.
And I've always appreciated that. So I really love that you have that in
Yeah.
common with me.
I think that people now too I all well, excuse me, I think now people are different in general. They're like TikTok smart. You know, like they're like watching videos and that's where they're getting their knowledge. Personally for me, like I read PubMed articles like for fun. You know what I mean? That's what I enjoy. Or I follow these amazing physicians and I just sign up with their classes and next thing you know that's how I learn things. But education is so different now. I think that a
Yes,
lot of people, you know, do I usually see a video that sparks an interest and then like look it up like crazy? Yes, that's what I do. But I think people need to take the initiative to learn more things now.
I agree with you.
Like, don't sell yourself short.
Yeah.
Learn more, grow.
Yeah, we waste our time so often. Doesn't matter if we're out grabbing a bite to eat or just have some quick downtime. And what are we doing? We're either listening to music,
Scrolling.
we're scrolling, what's the latest and greatest, gadget. I think I remember most of my platforms or the algorithms that were going on my phone was food because I loved, I'm a huge foodie. So
I love
restaurants to
that.
eat, tons of fashion and clothing,
Mhm.
and yeah, things about kids. Yeah, I mean, there wasn't really much. And now that I look at what I go through and I see, I barely have any of those on there.
Mhm.
Amazon, gosh, that guy could come over for dinner half the time. He was always at my house delivering boxes. I was constantly on that app. I have totally stopped. It's been like 6 months of like bliss of me not over having to purchase because the things I'm focusing on right now
Mhm.
aren't that. There are things I'm content with what I
Yeah.
have. I literally left Massachusetts and everyone behind that I knew in the West Coast to come to Florida and know absolutely nobody. No, I have no
During
family and
COVID.
no friends. So this was recently. This was actually I've only been in Florida now for 6 months. So
Okay.
during COVID is when I left California and went to
Okay.
Massachusetts, and I was there for 5 years. So my family lives on the West Coast, and my husband's family is here on the East Coast, here in Mass. And then coming to
That's so funny.
Florida.
So you started here, you
Yes.
go there, everyone goes there,
Yes.
and then now your husband's here. How did you meet your husband?
It was actually in Massachusetts. My brother was having a baby with his wife, and it was accidentally at a restaurant in Fall River outside on the water.
That's
And
so
yeah,
fun.
it was just one of those accidental moments that
I love that.
I don't know how it just happened. And he's 10 years older than me.
Yeah.
And I love it because at first, people are like, wow, he's older. And again, I was always around older
Older
people.
I could never date younger.
He's a handsome man, I will say.
Yeah.
My husband's very handsome. I call him my silver fox for a reason.
I love that.
He's a very good-looking man, and I'm grateful that he even aesthetically loves those things too. He's
Yeah, taking
recently
care of yourself.
taking care of yourself, making sure you're trimmed up, everything looks good. He's
Yeah.
more into that now, and I love that about him the older he gets.
I think that's important. I think a lot of guys, like, don't get into that,
No.
and they're just like, "It is what it is," and I just don't. I my husband was the same way. He was like didn't care. Construction for a million years, like, didn't care. And now with my med spa, I'm like, "Listen, you can't walk around like that. We need to figure this out."
Yeah.
And lately he's using his products more. He's telling his friends. The other day he was on the phone with someone and he was saying how I told him to use these like peel pads that he loves now. And I'm okay. Like
That's
that's
so
great,
cute.
like I think it's cute. But I think men need to start I have more male clients now than I ever did.
That is
I
wonderful.
do.
I'm
A lot
glad
of
to hear
guys.
that. They need to and my husband, he does his facials every 4 to 6 weeks. He's constantly getting them done.
I love it.
I have to book the appointment because sometimes he
But I don't think
forgets.
that I think that some people consider that, like, feminine, and I don't.
No.
I think it's just taking care of yourself. There's
Yeah.
a big difference.
Yes.
One of my friends, I haven't seen her in a really long time. Her husband's a twin, and she's been an injector for years. And she's been doing injectables on her husband for the past 30 years. And the other day, she posted a picture of her husband, and his twin brother. And it's amazing how good he looks comparative to his twin brother, who aged so different. And she said to me, all I've been doing is, biostimulating fillers, some Botox here and there, just a trickle,
Mhm.
and good skincare.
That's all it
And he
takes.
looks 20 years younger than his brother. I'm like, you guys could do that too.
Yes.
We don't have to, we don't always have, we want our men to look good too. We don't
Of
want you
course.
to be all wrinkled.
Of course. Of course. And when I met him, he had a beard, a full-on beard. And I was never really attracted as this sounds terrible to say live, but I was always a huge Yankees fan, even though I'm not from New
Mhm.
York, because they were clean shaved.
Always
And we've got the Red Sox, they're more with their beards. And I was
rugged.
like, So I always looked to that polish, you know.
Metro.
Yes, that was the look I was going for.
With the
And
Jersey, New
so
York look. Trust me, I
yes,
loved it
that's
too.
what I was going for. And so when I met my husband, again, it was not aesthetically, that's not the guy I would normally go for whatsoever, but his personality and the type of maturity and the way he spoke, and
That's what you
it
needed.
just was like, wow, what a gentleman. Like, what a handsome gentleman that wow. And then through time, you kind of slowly give some TLC and you're like, this would look nice on you. And he started learning name brands,
Mhm.
understanding what they were and the differences. And he's like, hey, okay. But to the point now, he does look like night and day,
Yeah.
from when I first met him. And it's not something that I tried to do or try to change
You
him.
didn't change him,
I
but you
didn't change
guided
him.
him in a nice
And
direction.
he embraced it himself, and he loved
Yeah.
it. And people might want to say, oh, he's vain now because he's with Monica, and that's what Monica is. And
But you know what? Tough shit. Who cares?
and everyone will have something to say. And I
Everyone
have
will.
learned to say, hey, let that roll off. That's
Yeah.
okay. If I can be a power couple with my husband, and I know
Do
at the
it.
end of the day in my walls that we're happy, my bills are paid, we're enjoying our life, we're enjoying our company of friends and family. Whatever people want to hate and say and want to pick apart and talk about, they are more than welcome because they've
Mhm.
got too much time on their hands.
I remember when I bought Rob his first Chanel cologne, because he was like the typical guy wearing
Yes.
this CVS brand or
Yeah.
whatever.
Right, right.
And I said to him, I go, I think this would smell really good on you. Why don't we put this on you? And then we got him like a nice new suit, and he put it on. He goes, I feel really good right now.
Mm.
And I said, well, you're like radiant. You look great. He goes, I think this is what I needed. He got like a fresh haircut that day. I'm like, it's not just women. When you look good, you feel good.
Yes.
Presenting yourself every day, even if you're not going anywhere. And I say this to my moms all the time that I work with downstairs. I say, even if you're going nowhere, get ready. Put some mascara on. Like,
I
do
am
something.
with you.
You'll
Absolutely.
be a lot happier when you look in the mirror and you're like cleaning your house, going crazy with a baby. If you look in the mirror and you're like, damn, my contour looks really nice right now. You have that like little thing.
Exactly.
So I think it's important to take care of yourself. And I think that's your whole thing with Pick Your Purpose, is really just finding out who you are and healing yourself. I love this brand. I'm so
Yes.
excited.
Thank you.
What are the social links that people can follow you on?
Recently, I just got on the TikTok platform, but
Ooh.
we don't know how that's really going to go, if that's going to really disappear on the 19th. But
Do you think it's going to?
I don't know. There's so much hearsay on that. I keep hearing yes, yes, and more.
Hey,
So
Nick,
I
our,
don't
our
know.
studio director here.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they need to sell it to an American company. So if they don't
I
do
heard
that,
Mr. Wonderful's buying it.
Mm.
everybody's heard stuff like that. But they might stop it. It might go away for a little bit of time, and then someone might buy it and it might come back. But we don't know for 100% sure as of yet.
I've definitely gotten more people on my platform through TikTok than
Me
I
too.
did on Instagram or,
Yeah.
Facebook, or on
I have
YouTube.
clients that come see me that are from Taunton and down that way.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're an hour away up here. And they go, I saw you on TikTok. I'm like, you did?
My kid
I-
tells me that on the school bus. My
Yeah.
kid saw you, Mom, on TikTok. I'm like, oh, great. I'm on a school bus now.
Well, the girl I just hired, Olivia, she's amazing. She's younger. She's 20. And she said to me today, she goes, Alexis, my friend was bored. So she just watched all of your podcasts and was creeping you on TikTok. And I was like, oh, thanks. She goes, we've seen you on TikTok, but didn't put two and two together that you're my boss. And I was like, you didn't know it was me?
Yeah.
Like, I bet I don't look different.
Yeah.
But it was so funny. I never realized that people focus on like TikTok as much. But what are your handles so people can know where to follow you?
They can follow me on Instagram. I'm _ Monica Helena Moniz. They'll find that Monica Helena Moniz as well on Facebook and on TikTok. Same thing. You'll
I
find
love
me
it.
under that.
Well,
Yes.
it was so nice having you, and I hope you come back again. We'll pick like
Yes.
another fun topic to get deep
Absolutely.
into. I'm so excited. Well, thank you guys for tuning in
Yes.
today. Follow us on all our platforms at Real Aesthetic Pod, and then is it what am I at? Just Real Aesthetic Pod on everything. I forget.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Okay, cool.
But regardless, I mean, they can follow us.
Yeah, follow us, like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week.